Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 242 of Into the Outer Realms. I don't know how many across the brands. Every day is a story all its own. Our former project, Saturday Morning Storytime Live, I don't know, 400 or 500, but this is 242, and it's a few weeks shy, but we're going to call tonight our sixth anniversary. And why is that important? First of all, I have an absolutely fabulous guest. My guest was with me in November of 2023. So it's been a minute. And since that time, she's written this wonderful book, The Akashic Way, living through the lens of the Akashic Record. So Mary is a storyteller like me, highly sought after for a very long time as a director in television. She won 3 Emmys for different soap operas and for the Olympics, and very talented. Also a very talented writer, and like myself, I wouldn't say even straddles the line. I would say walks the dual path of the storyteller and someone who's spiritual, who does that work. And we were talking in the green room a little. She's fully committed to that work now and really enjoying it. I will tell you, and you won't be surprised, there are times that I have come on air when we have had something very big happen, and it seems like big things are happening now all of the time. And yesterday, of course, the tragedy, the murder on the streets in Minneapolis. I'm sorry, any listeners who are with me now are like, oh, sorry, Joey, you already lost me. Well, find something else to do this evening. But that video speaks volumes. And this is where we're at. And people are upset, and they are confused, and they are outraged, and they are scared. Well, the Akashic Records can help us. Mary went to the Akashic Records earlier today to kind of get a read on what's going on. We were going to talk about the macro anyway. This is fascinating because, as a storyteller, I'm very interested in the micro and the macro. What is that? A good example I always think of is Pearl Harbor, the film Pearl Harbor. We have a macro event going on, but the micro, the journey that we take with the people, is micro. It's the individual characters, Josh Hartnett's character, so on and so forth. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So I'm going to roll the intro. Everybody who's here specifically for Mary, I appreciate you. Welcome. Hopefully you'll like what you hear, and you'll help us celebrate moving forward by supporting the channel. I'm not a big subscribe kind of guy. I just don't do those things. But I do want to say welcome. Hello, Charles. Hello, Tanya. Hello, Joe. I'm glad you made it in safe from your travels, your major connecting flights and all, and are safe at home and with us this evening. Hello, Terry. I'm going to roll the intro. I'm going to read Mary's bio off the back of the book, bring her on, and we're going to talk for about an hour. And I think this will be very inspirational at a time where we're all looking for positive inspiration. So here we go, and welcome. There exists a realm beyond our wildest dreams, a realm beyond reality that the gatekeepers and guardians have always told us consists of nothing but tricks of the eye, weather balloons, swamp gas, sand cranes, fairy tale myths of monsters, crackpot conspiracy theories, and desperate cries for attention.
We know this realm exists, and it's just beyond the horizon. The preset path, the well-worn walkways where the cynics want us to stay.
Instead, give this a listen. Put on your headphones, adjust your volume, close your eyes, and fasten your mental seatbelts, because the twilight-tinged turnoff from reality's alluring highway is looming just ahead.
We're about to leave the plane of the easily explained, the couldn't possibly be's, and the no way I just saw what I saw's, for the spaces and places where everything is possible, and if you stay long enough, even probable. We're about to take a journey into the outer realms.
All right, so that lovely voice you heard with me in the intro is my wife, Tanya. We just celebrated 28 years together. Tanya was with me for about the first half of the episode. She went on to do other things, but Tanya is going to be coming back in the fall. We got a road trip coming on. But anyway, it's time to turn all of our attention and focus to Mary. Mary Madeiras is an advanced Akashic Records practitioner, author, screenwriter, and 3-time Emmy Award-winning television director. For nearly 20 years, she has opened the Akashic Records for individuals, couples, and organizations worldwide, offering guidance that brings clarity, healing, and success. Her first book, The Akashic Way, Living Through the Lens of the Akashic Records, was born from direct messages received through the records. She's currently writing her second book, which explores the power of crises through the perspective of the Akashic Records, while continuing her successful work in film and television. Please give a nice Into the Outer Realms welcome to Mary. Mary, thank you for returning to the show. Good evening.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. It really is, Joey. Thanks. Exciting.
Thanks. So I want to cover a lot of territory tonight so that people can get a really good picture and hopefully be motivated to contact you, try the Akashic Records for themselves. So explain to us first and foremost, what are the Akashic Records and what makes them different than the information, say, gleaned through psychics or runes or other means of connecting with higher intelligences?
Okay. So the Akashic Records are an ethereal quantum realm. And that realm has recorded throughout the history of humanity, each soul's journey through lifetime after lifetime. What each soul has, all of us as souls, have thought, experienced, lived, said. And what's interesting is it's showing up. The Akashic Records are showing up a lot more. Which I find interesting because I think human beings are seeking something more at a time when we really need more. And the Akashic Records have been around since the beginning of time. They've been they're referenced in the Bible as the Book of Life, in the Quran, in the Tibetan Book on Living and Dying. Almost every culture has its own version of the idea that there is this blank space that becomes quantum, that becomes imprinted with each soul's actions, lives, lifetime after lifetime. So when we visit our own individual Akashic Records, which we all can do, we're basically receiving information, and really it's a remembering of who we are. So there's never any new information because the imprint is who we are already up until this point and future possibilities. So it's great. And it's a wonderful tool today because we are, as a humanity, so challenged by so much. I was going to say that. And we have lost touch, many of us, with who we are and why we're here. And the records, when we look at our lives through the perspective and the lens, as I call it in the book, of our own Akashic Records, we receive like sort of a download of our own light and who we are. And so that's it in a sort of more, it's hard to not talk about this without being metaphorical because
Right.
we can't touch it. It's not a library like what's behind you right there. Not that I know of anyway, but what my role has been and what I've received from my own visiting my own records and my own imprint in my records is my role is to bring this Akashic realm, the power of the realm itself, into third dimension, into real life. And so what works for me and what has been happening, because that is my role for me, is when I work with clients, I hear blocks of thought that are not mine. They are the imprint of that client, responding to what it is they're seeking, clarity, whether they're stuck, things like that. And I seem to be, the more I'm working in the records, receiving more and more specific things, not just ethereal things, but very specific things quite often, blocks of thought, past lives, and very specific answers for people who are seeking clarity, or they want to just meet up with themselves because they're lost. And I was one of those. So I've gone through it and still go through it. I'm grappling with what happened yesterday. I mean, I don't know how, right before we got on together here, my heart was breaking because I was just imagining again what happened, and her family and her child, and how people can do that to each other. And my heart just breaks. So, this is a very, it's a poignant time. I think you would agree.
Yeah, that's a wonderful word. So Mary, let's just talk about this briefly, and then what I want to do is really, because to get out of the metaphor
Mm,
and get into what you're finding and of what the book consists. But how do you go from being a very celebrated, very in demand television director, 3 Emmys on the shelf, and you make the move to doing this work? Can you tell us how that unfolded for you?
sure. Well, for me, it was an event in my entertainment career that jolted me into. I should say that it did jolt me into the records, not immediately. Uh, but what I came to understand is that the the essence of my work with the Akashic realm is the same essence that I brought to my entertainment work. So as a director, I was always, and I'm any actor even listening to this right now will say she's right, that who I worked with, that I would mirror to them almost their higher self, but I would mirror to an actor the highest form of their craft. So I was never a director that told people what to do. And everybody that I worked with, including the system I worked in, basically was trying to order me to do it that way. And I was bucking the current.
Mm.
I did not want to be that kind of director, and I was not. And so now backing even further, going back further, when I was little, I was born into a Catholic family, and I never when I was very little, I never understood a lot of things about what the Catholic Church was teaching, but I wasn't a rebel. I was very quiet about it, but I remembered feeling something very special when I was in churches, and not just Catholic churches. Whenever I would go to sacred spaces or places, I was moved by something at a very young age. I felt that there was something really amazing, and I remembered being aware of being loved by this, whatever this was. We called it God. And so now fast forward to my entertainment work, and I was during the time of directing, I began to seek. I was following the Eckhart Tolles and the usual suspects, um, Dr. Bruce Lipton, and now Greg Braden. I still look at him, but all of these ascended masters, Paramahansa Yogananda had a huge impact on me, and I was doing that. It was overlapping my directing career. And I think what was happening was, and then I had also a slew of UFO experiences. That's another whole part of my life. And so I think what happened was that overlap was my higher self guiding me into what was to be next. And so there then were these signs that wasn't paying attention to. I wasn't running away from them, but they were these three really interesting signs. One was a psychic reading that the psychic saw a figure over me, and he said that the figure communicated that he guided and guarded my Akashic records, and the psychic wasn't quite really aware of what they were, so I went and researched them, and I just felt like I knew them, but I didn't really immerse myself. And then I was at a spiritual bookstore in Los Angeles in a back room by myself, and the Bodhi tree in LA, and this book was teetering off the shelf above me, and it brought my attention to it, and when I looked up and I pulled it down, it was How to Read Your Akashic Records. So I was like, okay, and when when you're already getting a slightly, stepping into, I'll say, the metaphysical world, which is what I was doing, you you see those as signs. You go like, oh, okay, somebody's trying to tell me something. So that is how it began. And then I read that book, and my world just began to open, and it informed my visiting my own records, informed me as a writer, which I wasn't, or I didn't think I was. My own Akashic records, when I went into my own records time and again, when I was studying the records, imparted to me that there was an imprint in my records that I was a writer. And I was arguing with my own records. I was typing on my computer going, no, I'm not. I'm a director. I'm a director. And the records were like, well, the gentle, loving energy of divine said, there's an imprint here that shows you as a writer. So what I did was I just opened my hands to it, and I didn't worry about it. I didn't think about it. I didn't try and rush into it. And as soon as I surrendered to whatever, I got a call to write a screenplay and be paid to write a screenplay. I mean, that's how this works. When we are guided to something that is part of who we are, and we just sort of open our hands and go, all right, let's see, and not try and do anything, stuff happens. It just shows up, which affirms that, and that was a big affirmation too about the power of the Akashic records. I may not have done that or had that happen, well, at least not then. I probably would have eventually gotten to writing if that's part of my soul's journey. But my records really, I don't know, like really guided me to who I already am. Help me remember who I already am.
That's beautiful. That's wonderful. Remembering who we already are. That great dance between being and becoming is wonderful. I want to let everybody know, and I will put it in the descriptions tomorrow once YouTube has done its voodoo overnight that it does to the videos, and I can share it out. When Mary's with me in November 2023, we did talk about the Akashic records. We probably hit on some things we won't get to tonight, and we did talk a lot about the craft and our overlaps as storytellers. Also want to let you know Mary wrote a very generous back cover blurb for my book Every Day is a Story All Its Own, a triadic approach to storytelling, which is now going to get a second edition, which I'm working on.
Nice.
Now. Okay,
great.
So there's a question and answer section in the book, 13 of them. So of course we can't go over those, and we want everybody to buy and read the book. What is the one most misunderstood thing about the Akashic records?
Great question. That it is unattainable. And that really, actually, I'm going to, there are two things, 1A and B.
Sure.
One is that, oh, come on, is this real? Yeah. And number two is, and if it is, I don't get it. How do you get to it? And that comes up a lot. And it's not about faith. It's about an inner knowing. It's just knowing. And sometimes my answers to some of these questions they do seem pie in the sky. But, let's go back to Christ and Christ consciousness. Let's go back to all of the ascended masters, the Mary Magdalenes, the Mother Mary, all of the ascended masters that have walked this planet. They also spoke of this creation, this source of the beauty of all life that exists inside us and outside us at exactly the same moment. So when I am getting those questions at that when people are just going, come on, that kind of thing, I have to remember those ascended masters that walked our planet and how it must have been for them. Well, we know how it was for Jesus. That wasn't an easy road. And even Mary Magdalene, I've come to understand, and many psychics are channeling the fact that they're channeling Mary herself, and Mary Magdalene is telling us what the story really was, not that she was a prostitute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was she was a victim of a lot of church spin. I was also raised
Yes.
Catholic.
Ah,
Um,
church
yeah,
spin. I
I
love
am a
that.
big fan of Mary. She teaches us especially in our business, she teaches us a lot about spin and villainization oh,
Yes.
she doesn't fit with the narrative because he's supposed to be devoted to God, so I guess we'll just make her a prostitute, you know? So we understand stories. So far you've talked to us about when you access the records, you go through the records. But there
Mhm.
are three entities, I guess, and you're going to correct me and educate us on this. There are masters, teachers, and loved ones, and they come up in the book and they come up in the work, and you mentioned
Yes.
them in a Substack you posted today. Who or what are they,
Mhm.
and how do they relate to the work of the Akashic
Mhm.
Record?
Yeah, so the idea is this is a, a sacred space, and, there are these energies, and at least from what I studied at the with Linda Howe, who's written, I think, 6 or 7 books now, on the Akashic Records, and she has a Center for Akashic Studies in outside Chicago. So that's who I studied with because I resonated with her journey, with her. I really love how she taps into the Akashic realm. And so what my understanding and what I work with are light energies, okay? And I like to say they're not ghosts or spirits, but they're these light energies that oversee and protect the sanctity of each one of our Akashic records, the body of our Akashic records. And they are the masters, teachers, and loved ones. There are the lords of the records, and they're sort of the master overseers. Um, and then there are the masters, and the masters are, they are again protectors of the energy. Nothing can interfere in our journey. And those journeys are, I always like to emphasize, our soul's choice.
Mhm.
It's not some predetermined thing that we have to do and accomplish. So the masters are these light energies, and they're like they're like the pass through of the essence of the divine itself coming through to, in my case, me. Teachers are light energies that come in and out of our lives for choices that we've made. For example, we may have come to discover self love. There'll be a teacher energy that is embodying self love, and that teacher energy is with us. And then when we come to what are maybe the completion of that journey, and it could be within a lifetime, that teacher energy will dissipate and another energy will come in from for what it is that you're wanting next. Okay. So those are the teacher energies, and the masters and the teachers have never been uh, human or physical. The loved ones are energies, light energies, also overseeing and helping protect the sanctity of our own soul's journey. And they are basically anyone that we have experienced love with in this lifetime. And they're now on the other side. And they don't always, I mean, I don't always see them or hear them, but there are times where presences are there in somebody's reading and I will feel it. Just this week, I had a young man, and as I say a prayer to open records, and during the prayer, there was an entourage of ancestors of multicolors that they were filling my room, the room the man was in. It was like, and it was a quantum filling.
Mhm.
Hard to describe that. I don't see, beings. Some people do, but I don't. I know they're there and I can hear quantumly. And they were present in the whole reading. And the most beautiful thing happened, which was he and his wife are going to be having another baby, apparently, trying to have another baby. And the ancestors showed me them handing the spirit baby to him and his wife. It was just like anyway, so that's an example of loved ones. In his case, it was the ancestors. And it is not necessarily like a psychic reading, which is wonderful. Psychic readings are more, I like to say, one-on-one conversations with that one that you're calling. This
Yeah.
is more like they're present and holding again, the intention, sanctity, and purpose of your own path within your Akashic records. It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
Wonderful.
that's
Yeah.
who those guys are and gals.
The word that was just, in my head lit up like a neon sign was comforting. That's comforting.
Very
That they're
comforting.
there, and what they're doing is holding our space for us, with us, helping us. Yeah, because we need all the help we can get.
You know why they're comforting? I love that word that you used, is because we've experienced love with them. That's sort of the golden rule of that. It's those we have, and it can be anyone. It doesn't have to be family or anyone that we have had an experience of love with. They are there. It's like,
Excellent.
that's why it feels so comforting. Yeah.
Excellent. So let's get into the nuts of the bolts a little. Having read, written almost 20 books myself, and we're both screenwriters, so like screenplay is structure and all of this. You hit us with, hey, here's the book, and it kind of has an order, but just open it up, read anywhere, get a message. And I love that. Was that something that came from outside? Was that an intuition you had? Was it something that you just said, I think you could do this way, and that's what I'm going to tell people? How did that come about?
You mean that message?
Yeah,
that
message.
Because it was my own experience. So I started working with Akashic Records around 2008, and it was really, my studying the records was not so much studying the records themselves, like it was me opening my records over and over to look at my own past wounds, stuckness, things, whatever, discover my path, remember who I am. It was all of that, right? What I discovered was that, well, my own record said, you know, we see you writing several books. And I was like, and it was like, well, they suggested that I print out every single reading of my own that I did, and then open my records again because of the concepts that were coming through. Because my own, as you saw in the book, I would bring my own like 3D stuff to my records, like, why am I living here? And how do I deal with this? Like stuff. And then they would go off on, I'd get these messages, these profound messages about humanity and our purpose as a collective and the ego conscious and all of that. So then what happened, to answer your question, is when I went back to look at the readings from years ago, I would just sort of open them up and read them and go to myself and go, holy moly, like, I don't even remember this. And it would meet me where I am. And that's the power of divine. Because the thing about this is divinity itself. This is the essence of divine, known as, the records refer to it as, the all that isness of everything. I mean, think about that. The all that isness of everything. So it itself is an essence. And when it washes over us, it is mind-blowing. I'm just going to say that. So and it's quantum energy. So quantum energy never dies. It just shifts and morphs, right? So the records always meet us where we are. So in 20 years, you could pick up a reading and just look at it, and you'll go, I've had people write to me and say, oh my God, I just looked at or listened back to my reading from 2 years ago, whatever. I can't believe it. It seems like it's just now. That's because the quantum energy actually changes. It shifts. That's the power of quantum. That's also the power of divine. It's very beautiful and trippy. I'm still in awe of it, and I cannot linearly explain it. And I like saying that.
Yeah.
Gets me off the hook.
Well, not only gets you off the hook, but to me gives you an incredible amount of credibility, because the answers aren't pat, they aren't rehearsed. You're clearly still making sense of it. And that impresses me. That gives me confidence when I talk to someone who, when I asked you about the masters and the teachers and the loved ones, masters and teachers, you were processing a little as you were talking. And I love that, because it's fluid, because that too is quantum, which is terrific. It reminds me of Lynn Taggart and the Field, right?
Oh,
the
yes,
experiments
yes.
that they did. You have a recording, and it goes back and things change. So I love that very much. So there are 42, 42 sessions on a very wide variety of topics, micro, macro, some very, very personal to you. I was very impressed. We're going to talk about that. How did the organizing unfold? How did you decide, okay, how did the sessions go, in what order, knowing that you could read them in any order? But I'm not guessing you went, oh, I can just shuffle them like a deck of cards because people just read them out of order. So how did that organization
You actually
unfold?
you actually can shuffle them like a deck of cards.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the order, and I think I might say this in the intro, the order is that there is no order.
Okay.
I tried to wrestle with this because as a director, and you know this, when I would work on scripts, I had scripts. I actually learned from a wonderful director, and I would work from the back going forward. They were 1-hour shows. So I would go to the end and I would reverse engineer as a director. And as on soaps, we're different than films. We're responsible for the camera shots, the blocking, the lighting, everything. It's a great experience. So I'm used to order.
Yeah.
And when I directed live television, there had to be an order to begin with. I call it the skeleton. So I went into this, and this is why it took me longer to complete this book. I wrestled with, there needs to be an order. I tried and tried and tried. And finally, again, I just surrendered, and I realized, and I wrote somewhere, the order is that there's no order. So it showed up the way it showed up, and I allowed it. That's
right. Yeah,
that's how it worked.
Yeah, that is how it works when you're being resistive. I have a question that's not on my list. I'm going to hold it, but I'm really, really curious, but I'm going to hold it for exactly the right moment. Let's take a couple questions. Charles in the chat room is asking, do the Akashic records exist out of time or outside of time?
Yeah. Well, there is no time. So I guess the answer would be yes to that, because there is no time. In linear, we've created the concept of time. That's why, and this is fun too. Since we know that everything's energy and energy doesn't die. We also know now, and science is meeting up with this, thank goodness, is that our DNA, remember there was like 96 or 7% of our DNA was deemed junk DNA because they couldn't figure out what it was. Yeah. Well, it's not junk DNA, it's energy. So every lifetime we've lived, the DNA of every lifetime is still with us, of every lifetime. So when we find out about lifetimes, like, assets that we had, talents that we had, even, the rough stuff we went through, we can actually access the energy from those lifetimes and bring them in. It's so powerful. And we can actually bring the energy right to us, right to the point of, like, if you came from a lifetime where there was no such thing as cancer and you get a diagnosis of, God forbid, cancer, you can actually summon, intend, and it is intention. This is Bruce Lipton stuff, right? With the thoughts, intend that past lifetime that knew no cancer to be present. And your body will turn into, I don't know cancer. Now, that's a hard one for people, but, and I'm not practiced at that. I haven't had to yet, thank God. But when I heard that, I went, oh my God, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
We have such power that we've always had, that has become clouded by the creation of the ego and collective ego, which is another topic. Yeah.
Yep. So Alejandro asks, and this is, I'm relaying this as a fellow Catholic, what contradictions, if any, between the Akashic records and Roman Catholic beliefs?
A lot. One of the main ones is the salvation theory, that, and a lot of Christianity has that we come in with sin and we have to be saved. And my question is, it always was, and my question was this when I was little, saved from what? And my other question when I was little was, well, if God is so beautiful and wonderful and we are in the image of God, this is what the Catholic Church teaches, then why would God create a broken, stained human being? It made no sense to me. So, when I started to hear more about the, from the divine realm and Mary Magdalene, it was like, oh no, dear ones, there's no such thing. You come in as light You always were light, you are light, and you always will be light. And I was like, I knew it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it's hard to be a questioning Catholic. That was my thing when I was a little kid. When I made my first, confession, right? I was able to go into the booth. I was so excited, and I was like, "Let's talk about Adam and Eve and the dinosaurs." It was like it really threw the priest. I was this little kid in Catholic school, and they never stopped asking
Good for
questions.
you. Good for you.
We're gonna take one more. Someone near and dear to your heart, Christine asks, "Do animals have an Akashic record?"
They do. You know, I'm learning more and more that everything that exists has its own imprint in this field. Why would it not? So yes, animals do, and I actually have opened the Akashic records of my pets in the past, and they will let you know because you really have to have the permission. At least if as a practitioner, you need the permission. You can't willy nilly run around opening people's Akashic records. And so with animals, it's really cool. You ask them. I've done this, and their body language will show you. They'll turn away. And it's like they don't want their records open, or they'll just, or they'll move into you, or their energy will come more to you. And that means yes. So, yes, I have done that. And they do.
I love that. I love that.
Hmm.
Alejandro says very interesting discussion, and I agree 100% here. So, there are some really big questions. So I'm just going to say to the audience, guys, a little commercial. There are sessions that I categorize in my book review. That I call the concerns of daily living. So there's career and relationship guidance, there's eating healthy, ambition, communication, collaboration, wholeness, healing, and of course the big one, death. And there are communications with the deceased that you got to speak to your I don't know if that's the right word, so correct me if it's not. You got to communicate through the Akashic records with your mother and your brother, I believe. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
They came through. And so there was a prime example of the loved ones. And right now, I don't remember how I led into it in that session. And, it was so personal, so private because they're the two in my family that of my entire family, I was the closest to. My mother and I were best friends. And this was the brother, and he had a really rough life. And we finished each other's sentences. And when he passed, I was so, people say they experience being angry at God. I was so angry. Like, why did you take him? And why did you take her? And so it's been a raw space in my heart, those two. And so somehow, whatever was going on that day where they came through, it was so profound. Oh my God, Joey, I was just sobbing. Well, I felt them in me. I felt them. And
There's a
so,
great
yeah.
sorry,
No,
sorry.
no, go ahead. I want to hear what you're going to say.
No, I was going to say there's a great resonance to that chapter. I mean, there's a great resonance to all of them. And you mentioned, that it was difficult. And I say this in the book review because it was important. Some of this is so very personal.
Yeah.
I talk a lot about my personal life, my hopes, my dreams, my disappointments, what resonates with me, but I do it through the filters of character, layer and layer of story. So anybody who even in my fiction books, I don't get too deeply into, things. So I always admire. What did you struggle to go? Because there are things about your career and disappointments in your career and
Mhm.
and hurdles in your career, in your personal relationship, with your wife, it's in there. Were those I guess it's a two-part question, and you answer as you wish, each of the parts. One, was there a struggle for you? Ooh, do I put that in there when you were editing? Do you go, ooh, does that stay or does it come out? And were there conversations, say, with your wife or with other people about, hey, this is going in the book. How do you feel about that? So what was
Oh,
that?
yes, yes, and yes. Okay, on all of that. Yeah, I really struggled with it. I remembered saying, well, I have to say that the very first time that I heard blocks of thought that were not my own, when I first opened the records, I took what I wrote, what I was hearing, to Christine, my wife, and I said to her, "Look, I have a huge imagination. Is what is this?" And she got emotional when she read the material, and she said, "Are you kidding? You don't even speak this way." you're tapping into something. This is really important. Thank God for her, because I don't know what I would have done with all of this, because I had a lot of doubt. Like, who, me? I'm going to hear all this. And so when it was time, when I couldn't separate, first of all, I was trying to separate the messages for humanity and for the world and all the other great stuff that's in there. I tried to pull them apart from the personal stuff, because my personal questions would always wind up with the records speaking in a bigger way, in a broader way. So I did. I actually worked on pulling them apart. And I remember Christine saying, "Why are you doing that? People are going to find themselves through your own journey." And I remember saying to her, "But who's going to care? I'm not even known. Who's going to care about some person they don't know talking about, how do my weight, my body, all the stuff." And she said, "They will. I'm telling you." And she was right, because people have said, "I saw myself in that," or "that struggle you had there, it reminded me of me, da da da, whatever." So that's how that wound up that way. And then the chapter with Christine, I actually asked her, because she's had the most readings, of course, because we live together. And whenever she's struggling with something, it's like, "Can you open the records?" I'm like, "Absolutely." So she asks the most questions. And you see that in that chapter. She just goes on. I mean, she'll go from here and then, "Can you tell me this? And can you tell me that?" And so we talked about it together. And we looked through some of her readings, and I said, do you want to have a chapter? Do you think, whatever?" She said, "I'm totally open. I think it's great." So that's how that wound up. Yeah. So yeah, it was open and conversations about it. And I finally just surrendered I put my blinders on and said, "Just stick the personal stuff in there."
Yeah.
And you're right. Some of it is, like, what about I have a past life. Well, one past life was great. I was a nun. That's a nice one. But then there was the past life where I was scorned and I scorned people. That was a tough one to put in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I applaud you. I applaud
Thank you.
Christine, because again, it's so quantum, and it's so real, and it's so open that it gives great comfort, and takes some of the fear away of engaging with these things. So we're almost at the 3/4 mark, although I think I'm going to ask you politely if you can stay a little more than an hour, because I
Sure.
think we're going to need it. So here's another question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this is from Tara Ann Crawford.
Mm-hmm.
Um, During an Akashic session with you, are we able to call forward a specific lifetime that could help with something we want?
Yes. Let me clarify that. So my experience is that we don't go to the records to find a past lifetime. What happens is, whatever it is we're seeking, a lifetime may show up because it's going to present the clarity and become a tool for us. That's so far how it's been working, but it's not to go look for one. Okay.
Okay, excellent. So, highly personal question, but we won't know. You handle it any way you want. But what is the most surprising thing that you have learned about yourself while engaging with the records?
Hmm. Um, I think it's an ongoing learning. I'm learning to accept that I have something very special inside me, probably like all of us. And the records always say, "Feel the love that's inside you." And, there are times and days where I still go, "Not, is this real?" That's never the day I think this isn't real, forget it. I have to stop it. But I wonder, I still wonder, like, how can I do this? And that's a questioning of myself inside. It's not doubt. I had more doubt in the beginning. It's not necessarily that, but it's sort of an inner wondering. And so that's an expansive thing, and it's ongoing. Okay. So it's there. Maybe that's a good thing, because it keeps me tapped in some weird way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. There's a long distance between I am an expert and imposter syndrome. There's all
Yeah.
this rich area in the gap, where I
Yes.
think the best of us operate. Because I was going to ask you later. You say that, you say like, why me?
Hmm.
Why do I? And are you? Do you feel like you're making progress with that? Like, do you ask that question?
Great
I guess
question.
here's the way I'll ask it. Do you ask that question less, or do you ask it less forcefully or energetically?
Yeah,
Why
it's
me?
actually, yeah, and it's a great question. It's less an asking and it's more of a feeling, right, sometimes. And
Yeah.
yes, it is less, and the way that I know it's morphing, I'll say, into a more ascended version of myself is that I'm hearing way more inside and outside the records. I'm beginning to hear before I open people's records and get on Zoom with them. I'm quiet and I go into a prayer and I don't know these people and I just think of their name. I'm not in their records yet. They've already given me permission though, but I haven't opened their records yet. And I begin to hear information. So now what I'm doing is I write down what I'm hearing. And I'm also hearing way more just in life when I'm with people. I'm just hearing. And so I think that's a sign that I'm accepting more, that I have a role in this, that I have a role in helping people see the light that we all are.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I care about is helping people see that they are light, that there isn't some bearded man in the clouds. We are all that and we're all the same. Yeah.
Wonderful. So I can testify to your journey, oddly enough. November 2023, we finished the show. I asked you to stay after the show. We were off air, and you said, Joey, this never happens. But I got a message from the records while we were talking. Never mind what the message was. That was between you and I. But now that's happening much more often. So it's not
Yes.
surprising. That's
Yeah.
neat.
Like way
That's
more. I mean, I'm just getting things. And I think what's happening is I think this is happening for many people. It has been said, this old saying, it's old now, the veil is getting thinner. Well, it is, but I think what's happening is, as divine has imparted throughout recent years, is that humanity is expanding no matter what. Whether we like it or not, expansion is occurring, frequency is getting higher, and so vibrations are higher, all that juicy stuff. And as that happens, we're closer and closer to the high vibrations of divine, what's on the other side, multiverses, all of that, ETs, everything that exists outside of third dimension, we're closer to. I like to say that what I'm doing is when I'm working in the records, I am I'm moving from an ordinary state of consciousness to a divine state of consciousness. And it's a very subtle shift where my ego is somewhere else. It's just not there. I once tried to have an opinion inside somebody's reading, in my head.
yeah.
I couldn't because they were saying something rough. I couldn't. I tried. It was weird. It was like there were like a lot of voices going on, plus hearing from the records. And I tried to have an opinion and I couldn't. And after I closed their records, I was like, I remember sharing it with Christine and I said, I tried, I couldn't, which was proof that my ego was truly not present. We can't be doing this kind of work with each other if we are not clear, not aligned, and have ego present. It won't work.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, to experience that's wonderful. So let's move, Mary, for the rest of our time together. Um, let's move to macro, right? So we've been talking about very personal stuff. I mentioned what I call the concerns of daily living. In the book, folks, I'm going to gloss over a few things in the interest of time and because I want you to read the book.
Um,
Sixth mass extinction, you talk about the Middle East, the end of Earth, the lifetime of the sun, things that come in and out of our consciousness as we go about our life to different, even the nature of gravity, which I loved. And I said in the book review, I know a quantum physicist who's doing experiments with gravity that are very cutting edge. And exactly what you put in the book was so spot on. That was cool. Not that I'm looking to vet or to be nothing has to be proven to me. But I just love that. I was like, I showed up and I'm here, and I happen to have this knowledge from this guy who's about to go public. So that was really cool. But let's talk
Neat.
about two things. And we have to be really careful about the first one. And I'm going to make a mystery box. You talk about the coronavirus. And you got some messages about the coronavirus that I was pretty certain of from almost day one, and through my own research and interviewing people and thinking a lot about it. I'm just gonna ask this, and then folks, it's a big old mystery box, and you go ahead and get the book and you find out what we're talking about. Were you surprised by the information that you got vis-a-vis the coronavirus?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. And on some level, the records use I like to say, quantum flows through my brain, my imagination, my way of speaking, my personality, my heart. It's but it's flowing through all of that, right? And so I'm saying that because when that came through, I remember when that was coming through, I was like, my whole body resonated. It was just like, oh my God. Yes, 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 yes. And the thing we have to be careful of is manipulating nature. I'll just say that.
Yeah, exactly. Great. That's a great teaser for the mystery box. So guys, go ahead and go. But I remember it was early in the morning. I like to do my book review reading at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. No phones, no nothing. I can just engage with the work, and that's how I honor the author. And it's good too, because I guess for every book that I read, I go, okay, this is what I have to concentrate on today. And I remember sitting there in the semi-darkness and going, this is great. This is a great confirmation. So you and I shared some emails earlier today. Of course, yesterday, what happened in Minneapolis, I led with it. I called it a murder, and I believe that was a cold-blooded murder on the streets of America. And we see that from police. We see this feels different. Now, you contacted me and you said, I ran the records, and what do you think? Should we talk about this? So share with the audience where we're at in all this seeming chaos and turmoil from the records.
Yeah. So actually, and I don't know if this is in the book, there may be a reading that didn't get in there, but the records have talked about throughout the years, I would bring the same question into the records. Oh yeah, there is a chapter in there. Every 2 years, every 3 years, what's going on? It seems chaotic. The world seems this, world seems that. And the records kept saying, yeah, there is something that is ramping up, right? It's Eckhart Tolle. They bring him up all the time as an ascended master. It is what he refers to as that collective ego conscious. The ego conscious forms itself, not healthy ego that brushes our teeth at night, but the ego conscious forms itself from unloving, those who don't know their love, those who have not experienced their own light, take actions that are not of light. So there is no darkness. There's just actions from non-light. The collection of that energy keeps forming and building. And then what happens is it then becomes aware of itself. That essence becomes aware of itself. That's the collective ego conscious. And I have been shown, and this is a visual, I don't usually get visuals, but this one I keep seeing, and it's a gray band around the planet. And it's very close to the planet, and it's pulsing. It's gray, and it's pulsing. That's the collective ego. And it's been filling and forming, and, and these actions, like what happened yesterday, feed into that. And then it becomes more relevant to itself, that essence. And Eckhart says the collective ego fears its demise. That's right. Yeah. So, and then the records say, and it is not real. What is real is love. So what has happened yesterday has been almost, I don't know if it's the straw that broke the camel's back that we would say, but it's pretty close. There is this explosion of the ego that is about to happen. That's what the records seem to be saying. And what we are being invited to do as a humanity is gather together. Don't fight that non-existent ego. It won't work because it just gives it more relevance.
Right.
That doesn't mean we don't stand up and take to the streets and do the things that we can do and call our reps and say, dismantle ICE and all of that. That's different. But we have to create the new earth based on based on the reality of love, by banding together, grabbing hands. They said, grab each other's hands and walk the earth together and walk around that collective ego conscious. We have to walk around it. That's how we're going to create the new earth, because then we're on the other side of it, filled with masses of love, and the ego will be left in the lurch behind that mass, and it will just dissolve away because it won't be seen anymore. As long as it's not seen, it can't exist. So this is kind of what the records are. This is how they're helping us navigate. They're based, and they're calling it a 911 call from divine. They're saying it is critical that light warriors, or that we all become warriors of light, and we grab our golden swords and we say no more, but we don't say no more to it. We say no more by creating the new. And what they've also said is, for humanity, each one of us has two things. They're saying we have, all of us collectively have so many assets, so many talents, each one of us, right? We put all those together. Somebody said today on I don't know, something I was hearing, there's way more of us than there is, we'll say them for now. Those who are wreaking havoc, there's way more of the opposite of that. And so we should just think of that like we should feel better. And so that there's that. And then the other very important thing is we must take care of ourselves and bring ourselves into alignment, take care of our minds, our bodies, our spirits. We have to do that. Must do that. You can't come at this or go around it in a broken way. It won't work. Yeah.
So that is wonderful. I hope everyone is listening with open hearts and open mind. You know, from the very start, I always talk about keep your vibration high. When enough candles are lit, the darkness will disappear. I'm gonna move very quickly with this, Mary, but in Every Day is a Story on its own. I tell a story of I had written a performance piece called "I Am Not Other" about human and civil rights, and these actors would perform it fearlessly. It was wonderful. But I developed a light chant and a dark chant. And the dark chant was things like hate and prejudice and division and segregation. And I would do these experiments with these young actors where I would give the, love, light, communication, community. And inevitably what happens is you take 8 actors and you give them the hate chant. Take 8 actors, you give them the love chant. The 8 actors with the hate chant will dominate energetically the room. And you will watch the love actors begin to fold. But some spark will come. Sometimes it's encouragement from me. I try not to go there, but they will begin to hold hands. It's exactly the message you got today. They will physically unify. They will make a circle. They will dance. They will hug. They will cry, and they will begin to beat down and diminish the hate chant. And I will tell you that 7 times out of 10, people from the hate chant will defect. They were not told that was an option. They don't care. They'll go, this sucks, man. I'm going over to the light side. Or they'll just go, you know what, man? I can't do this anymore. Like, can we stop? Like,
wow. Yeah, that's powerful.
It's powerful. It's neat. It stays with me. And it's so aligned. Is why I told you right now. It's so aligned with what you got. It really absolutely works. Christine asked, where can we read what you channeled from the records today?
I posted it on Substack. It's on Substack. It's on my Facebook page, which is the Akashic Way. So Substack, the Akashic Way on Facebook, and my personal personal Facebook page as well. I also opened the Records of the United States. I shouldn't have waited to tell you that now.
Oh no, we're in it. We're both improv artists. I'm fearless. Go ahead.
The United States. I haven't posted that yet. I'm going to post that probably tonight.
Oh, okay. So we have to wait. So, and the
Well, we don't
Substack,
have to
how do
wait.
they?
I mean, I can give you a teaser. Oh, well, not a teaser, but I can let you. The United States is crying right now. It was create. It's an essence. It was, well, everything begins as essence. They always show me Harry Potter as an example. It existed in the ethers. There's a book by Elizabeth Gilbert called Big Magic.
I love that book.
Isn't that a great book? And you can read
I
it in
love
like 5 minutes. Yeah. And she
Yeah.
talks about basically creativity, its essence. And then it looks for, it searches, it wants to become manifest. So it searches for its match. And so I always think of Harry Potter going around there as a concept. And there she was, Rowling, and it was a match. And
Yeah.
I know I forgot why I was saying. Oh, yes. Yeah, so the United States. So the United States was an essence. The United States of America was a concept floating around the ethers, and the founding fathers and the conditions that were happening here were a match to the energy of that concept. So the concept comes in and it becomes the United States of America, and later the Constitution. And what is interesting about this is that the United States, the energy of the United States was speaking, because I was in its records. And it was confused, and it was asking, why is this? Why have I had 200 and almost 50 years of strife happening on my soil? And what the records of it were saying was that you came in conditions of strife, people being harmed, people being killed, hate, division, prejudice. And that energy that you came into became like a subconscious pattern that you've carried as the essence of the United States along the way. So it's like the United States has its own subconscious pattern.
Yeah.
And so by it as an essence, this is trippy stuff, I know, but as the essence of the United States recognizes, oh, that's a pattern that wasn't really mine. It was the conditions I came in. No wonder I manifested more of that.
Yeah.
It cleared, and it was shown the power that it came in as, and the records called it will be the new America. And it is being formed. And the people who have, along these 200 and something years, have lived with the knowledge and love of the pillar that it began as, without those subconscious patterns. They've been throughout history. We've seen them, because when we've gone through rough times, it is those people of the light that know what America really is. The records, the America's records were reminding America that they're still here. These people were all here. And so we need to lean, and the people of the United States want to lean on that pillar again. It's a trippy reading. I'm going to post it and see where it goes. But it was so profound.
It makes perfect sense to me. I don't think it's any coincidence that American democracy is arguably, and I would make a strong argument, in its darkest moment at our 250th birthday. This is not a coincidence. Because we have the energy, we have the history, we have the interest. Ken Burns just, wickedly popular, his American Revolution. I'm revisiting all the not the autobiographies, the biographies of all of the founding fathers. And I think that people are, and we can see where we went off track, and we can see, I'm reading a book now for some work I'm doing on sundown towns and the Green Book, and racism after the Civil War diminished. 1890s, the rise of the robber barons, right? The industrialists, the hoarding of wealth, really, in America at an unprecedented level. And the Republicans, who had always been so progressive, right? The Lincoln Republicans are suddenly like, hey, we want some of that money, but how in the heck can we justify hoarding money and creating this classism? I guess it's because those guys are inferior. And that's where the Republican Party started to go off the rails in the 1890s. Incredibly interesting. And I think at our 250th birthday, it's going to be a great opportunity for educators and storytellers to go, hey, we're here. Let's talk about this stuff. Let's revisit. So I again, it resonates. And Mary, this has been so wonderful tonight, because throughout the book, and what I struggle with and what I call kind of the Eckhart Tolle effect and all, is everything's as it should be. All is well. Illness is an illusion. My father-in-law right now is in stage 4 cancer. So
Oh,
I
no.
think for my family, it would be a tough sell to go, oh, illness is an illusion and you can light cancer away. I deeply believe that. But in talking about all this now, and your Substack today, and the one that you're gonna post, it really does feel like, hey, if all these things didn't happen, we wouldn't be at this moment where we can get around that band, where we have the motivation, where,
Yeah.
people always say to me, like, what the heck can I do? Just love. Like, love. That's what I tell them. Find joy in every day.
Well,
And
and to add to that, absolutely, that is what the message, and that's what I keep hearing, and I believe that, and I always believed that. What I'm being shown lately over and over is this image of the new earth, and the new earth has huh, it's pure unity consciousness. There's no duality. Now, a lot of people will argue with that. No, you have to have the shadow to see the light. The records are telling, the divine says, no, dear ones, you do not need, there is no dark. Even Abraham Hicks says, which I always love, and I love repeating this, there's no dark. When you walk in a room, there's no dark switch, right?
yeah, yeah.
But there is. So imagine a planet that really is only love, no duality. And what I am hearing is that that is how we began. And that creation of the ego, when Narcissus saw his image, that's when all hell broke loose.
Yeah, my triadic approach to storytelling in my book and in my life's work is that duality is an illusion. It's great. It has great functionality for storytelling.
Yes,
But
it does.
we have mediators that will take two things and turn them into something brand new. And we are the mediators. The trunk of the tree between the branches that reach heaven and the roots that go deep into the ground is the mediator. We're the trunk. We're the
Love that.
participants. And I feel like the Akashic Records are this great mediating tool. Would that be unfair to say that?
No, that's yes, I love that. I love that you said that. Yes, they are a great mediating tool. Yep.
Yeah. So now's
Beautiful.
a good time. I think we've done our work to demystify what this is all about. So how can people, we know about the Substack, we know about the but they can go to the akashicway.com. What will they find there? What tools?
Well, that's my website, and just tool around the website. There's plenty there. And and also a way to reach me, and have readings if you want, information about my book. And I'll just keep adding more juice to that website. Yeah, so that's how you reach
Very
me.
good. And what are you working on now?
Well, I'm working on, as it said on the back of the book, it actually might be morphing a little bit in a beautiful way. But when Hurricane Helene, I'm in the Asheville area. I'm in Black Mountain in North Carolina. So we went through Hurricane Helene, and I was guided. Woke up in the middle of the night with a message: offer free readings for people navigating this. So I did. And I went on Facebook groups and just said, I'm offering free Akashic readings to help everybody, whatever. And so, people just came in, and it was wonderful. And I heard in my own records that I should talk about this, not the people's readings, but, the power of what was happening. So I began, and I'm writing this now, referring to it as the power of crisis, when in fact what I'm now hearing is we don't need crisis anymore. Crisis, there's more to this. So it's not, because if we just say, wow, it's called 1 hour at a time, because that is how everybody navigated, and they do navigate the massive events that are happening. I mean, I'm sure even from yesterday, people are trying to navigate this crazy thing that happened, and the way to navigate it is kind of like 1 hour at a time. And
Yeah.
so that became the title, and I called it The Power of Crisis, but it's not that. It's really more than that. It's sort of what happens out of crisis and the fact that we don't need it anymore. We think we need it. We think we have to go through all this junk and garbage and pain in order to experience beauty and love and light and peace and all that. No, we do not. That's an old paradigm, and that's what's breaking away. The old paradigm is shifting. And that's why we're seeing institutions that are based on old paradigm ideas, including religions, they're imploding. I think they're imploding. Look, the Vatican has a lot going on.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's end with this here. Charles is, wait a minute, come on. There it is. I'm praying for evolution rather than a revolution or a revolution. Have you encountered that with the records?
Yeah, and yes, and now that's not to say that revolution might not occur in a human way. I mean, I don't know, but evolution is that's where we're going. That's what this is all about. We're evolving into who we already are, and what got covered up for what various reasons. We all have our own things that we go through, and collectively that ego conscious is covering up the reality that we are very powerful light beings. That's what we're made of. And so I believe we are evolving, and I would like to say sort of evolving back to that.
Yeah. There we go.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. So final words.
Final words.
What do you want to leave the audience with?
I want to leave everyone with this message. Find your tribes of light. Find them. Andrew Harvey talks about this. I love him, the mystic. And one of his books is he talks about creating cells of grace. Grace is a very powerful word and underused, I think.
Yeah.
Find them. Find your light, those people, because we need each other. And what I also think we need to do is then connect those groups, because so that we feed more and more into that ball of light. That's just find your tribe.
Yeah. There you go. All right. So, Mary, I'm going to drop you out. Please stay so I can say a proper thank you. I just want to give a little commercial to upcoming shows. Okay. I'll talk to you in a few minutes. All right, folks. So we got some cool shows coming up next week. Jack B. Alex' book, Lost in Time, Our Forgotten and Vanishing Knowledge, a wonderful discussion on the precarity of our knowledge. Think about it, like how fragile a CD is, or a little thumb drive or something like that, against like the Sumerian tablets, which have existed for thousands of years. It's wonderful stuff. Time capsules, and that's going to be a wonderful episode. Then Tanya and I are going on the road for 3 weeks, so I can perform Cyrus Avery, and we're doing really, really cool Route 66 stuff, an adventure we've been planning for a long time. I'm going to be doing in 2 weeks. I'm going to be doing 23 performances and 2 workshops about Cyrus Avery, the father of the Mother Road. I'm very excited. Then when we come back in February, The Way of Unity, Essential Principles and Preconditions for Peace by Dr. Robert Atkinson. This is an extension of this discussion. It's really important, more tools and what we can do with this light, love, unity, and wholeness to get around that gray band. I really, really love that image. And then I'm very honored I go from 3-time Emmy winner to Oscar-nominated screenwriter and director Penn Densham. You may know Houdini, you may know The Resurrection of Outer Limits and Twilight Zone. Personal favorite of mine. Some people find it highly flawed. Too bad. Don't Look for Cracks in the Mona Lisa. Robin Hood with Kevin Costner and Michael Wincott, and of course Alan Rickman, who I miss so much. So I'm very, very honored and excited. Thank you all. I'm going to keep on doing this for as long as you watch. Thank you all for all of your good words. Christine, thank you. It was so much to meet you through the wonderful to meet you through the chat room. Much love to you as well. All right, folks, I'm going to let you go. Thanks for staying with me a little longer tonight, but I really thought that it was worth it, and it was. So be well, and we'll see you next week with Jack Bialik and Lost in Time. Take care, everyone. Good night.